Stocks, stocks versus ETFs. Which one is better? Okay. So first of all, we have to define what stocks are, and I'm going to do that with my trusty little notepad here. However, before we get there, here's the thing about stocks. Stocks are individual shares of a company. Now, the reason why that definition is important, I know that may seem trivial, but the key point there is that it's a part of a company, because most people are looking at shares or stocks as if they're just some arbitrary number that may or may not go up or down. But what you're buying is a piece of a company. And in the global economy, whether that company does well or badly will determine whether or not that stock goes up or down in the long run. Now, in the short run, there may be reactions and overreactions to the price or news or certain things that happen outside of the company's control. However, in the long run, for example, Apple, one of the most valuable companies in the world, is a pretty valuable company. Same with Microsoft, same with Google. The impact that they have on the world is proportional to their market cap, and so their stock price has gone up significantly. So then what does that mean? If you are trying to buy a company, don't look at the stock price necessarily. Buy a company that you believe will keep adding profits, that has a moat, that has good leadership, that has good debt to income ratios. These are good things. Debt coverage ratios, good operating margins. These are very important topics to talk about. Are they paying dividends? Are the dividends increasing? These are good strategies to look at. Are their profits increasing year after year? Is their debt going down? Are they adding more revenue from 5 years ago, from 2 years ago? What are they doing? If they have a plan, if they're not profitable yet, when they will get profit, plus when not only will they turn profit, but if they have turned a profit and continue to add more and more profit, for example, a company like Tesla, that's a good company that you can bet on. Now, whether that will be true by the time that you see this video, I don't know. But these are topics that you can look at to determine whether or not a stock makes sense. So, now that you understand that, what's the difference between buying a stock and an ETF? Okay, so an ETF, exchange traded fund, the definition of fund is important there, because remember, a fund, just like a hedge fund or trust fund, is a pool of money together. It's a basket of stocks of companies, pretty much. So then you're buying one ETF and then you're getting access to 100, 200, 300 companies from this one ETF, as opposed to buying one share of a company where you're only getting access to that one company. Now, as you can imagine, this has pretty significant benefits. Okay, cool. So then, if you are buying just one company, what happens if that company goes down? What happens if it underperforms? Then you can imagine the performance of that stock is probably going to go down too. Now, if 100% of your entire investment portfolio is in Apple, and for some reason Apple in the next 10 years doesn't do as well as we think it would, then your investment portfolio is probably going to suffer. But let's say, conversely, it does exceptionally well. Better than any other stock in the stock market. It goes from $3 trillion to $10 trillion in the next 10 years. Triples your money. Fantastic. Then you get all of those gains. That's a good benefit for being in one company alone. That's the benefit of buying stocks. But we also have to look at what is the benefit of buying an ETF. The benefit of buying an ETF is that if Apple doesn't do well, then the ETF portfolio, remember you're buying 200 or 300 companies. Then if your entire portfolio, if Apple is the only one that's suffering from your entire portfolio, then Apple is the only one that's going to go down, but that's only maybe 10% or 12 or 15% of your entire portfolio in that one ETF, which means that you're not getting all of the downside if Apple goes down. Now you can extrapolate that to, let's say it's Apple, let's say it's Tesla, let's say it's Microsoft, Adobe, Exxon, doesn't matter. If that company goes down, you don't see all of the downside. That's a really good advantage to having an ETF, which is a fund of multiple companies. But on the other hand, If one company does really well, like Nvidia, for example, going up 400% in the last 2 years, then you actually don't see the full 400%. You're only going to see that portion of the ETF go up 400%. Now, you still see some of the gains, you just don't see all of it. So then perhaps your stock goes up, instead of 400%, you get 40%, which is still good, but you don't get the entire thing. So that's something to keep in mind. However, the good thing about having an ETF is that the proportions and the allocation to different companies, whether one company should be in second or first or even on the list at all, that's handled automatically. So then you have a fund manager paying them a small fee in order for them to take care of your money and choose the best companies in the world. And that's a pretty good thing. Vanguard and BlackRock both have ETF offerings. Together, they make up about 50% of the ETF market or more alone. So you can imagine they know what they're doing and they're making a lot of money offering ETFs. And it's actually beating most hedge funds because it's beating the market. One of my favorite ETFs, I'll give you the secret, is VONG, and since its inception in 2010 has done 18.9%. No, that's not true. 16.9%. In the last 5 years, it's done 18.9%. Think about that. In the last 5 years, when the stock market is supposed to be averaging 10%, VONG in the last 5 years alone has done 18%. That's incredible. And again, since its inception, it has done 16+%. That's incredible. So, where's my trusty notebook? There we go. So then we have ETFs on this side, and we have stocks on this side. Which one should you put your money into? So, I messed up. I can't write. Stocks, ETFs. Which one will you put your money into? If one stock goes down, then you're going to lose all your money. But if one ETF goes down, then if one stock in an ETF goes down, you don't lose all your money. That's a good thing, right? Okay, so perhaps that's one strike against stocks, 1 point for ETF, okay? But then, this is automatically managed by a fund manager. So you have less work to do. You don't need to do as much research. Don't need to know necessarily what's happening within and without the company. So then that's another point for ETFs. However, in the long run, if you want to bet on the best company in the world and you want to get the most return, for example, from Apple or from Microsoft or from Google, which are likely going to perform, then maybe you want to get all of those returns. So then maybe you do want to keep some stocks. So that's 1 point for stocks. So then here's a secret method how you can get both of these methods to work for you. Both of these strategies can work for you. Because what we find is that people who choose stocks alone, they lose 90% of the time. That's not good. 90% of the time, they don't even beat the market. But you can combine both strategies. So here's what you can do. And here's what I do. Now, this isn't financial advice, nothing on my pages. However, I'll tell you what I do, and you can feel free to use that information in any way that you please. I have most of my portfolio in ETFs that already outperform the market, like VONG, like VOO, like VOOG. These already outperform the market, getting 13, 16, 15% year after year after year on average. However, that's about 75-80% of my portfolio. What do I do with the other 20%? I invest into crypto. I invest into small cap stocks. I invest into stocks that I choose that I think will do really well. So then if I see a company that's supposed to do well and I hear about it in the news, it may already be in my ETF, but I may buy more separately to capture some of the upside from that explosion that I think might happen. For example, Palantir is one of those stocks that I hold individually. Adobe, another one. Microsoft, another one. Because those stocks have gone up significantly in addition to having them in my ETF. And then I also own crypto. So I get also the 400%, also the 10,000%, plus a stable minimum 13, 14, 15, 16% on average year after year. That sounds like a pretty good strategy. And if you like that so far, comment down below so I actually know that you're here with me until the end. Comment and so I know that you made it to this point. By the way, if you like this video, there's more that you can watch. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.